Jeremy, what's up, dude? I think we're live, man.
Good.
We're ready to go. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Appreciate you jumping
Oh,
on the webinar. To everybody
yeah,
listening,
excited.
we're gonna get tactical. Jeremy Schiff is the CEO of Salesbot. He's got an amazing resume that includes building multiple companies and PhDs. But what I really like the most is the fact that he's an Uber driver on the weekends, and he is the best Uber driver ever. I give him 5 stars every time I come to San Francisco. We're just joking around. Me and Jeremy know each other, and he has picked me up and dropped me off from an event before, and that does not make him my Uber driver. But if he was, he'd be the smartest one I know. Want to chat to you today about AI and really not about the fluff. Really want to know about how AI is being used in sales teams, and I know that you yourself are scaling fast with few employees, right? You're not really doing the warm lead AI. Let's hire 70 people and scale to 5 million ARR in 7 years model. You're doing I got 4 people and I'm going to hit 5 million ARR. So maybe a quick introduction about yourself, your company, and then we'll just jump into it, man. We'll talk about the tools.
Yeah, so I guess quick background on myself, fleshing that out a little bit. Did my PhD in robotics and AI at Berkeley. My first company was the AI photo editor for companies like MySpace, PhotoBucket, and eHarmony. Second company was personalized restaurant recommendations. Basically, think of like Netflix's algorithm applied to Yelp data. Sold that to OpenTable. Was in charge of rebuilding OpenTable's search engine, among a number of other AI initiatives. After I left, I was like, what happens if I start recommending people instead of recommending places? And so took a lot of that AI technology and ultimately created Salesbot. We're a smart team trying to find all the efficiencies internally with AI, as well as powering lots of companies, large and huge, with AI as well. So it's
When you
this
say
stuff is
PhD, is that a people helper degree or is that something else? What does that stand for?
it's a doctorate in philosophy, but yes.
So you're a big awesome. All right. Talk to me right now. Okay. So look, obviously you're probably using SalesBot, but what are the tools and workflows that you're using? How big is your sales team? Maybe we could start off by just talking about your sales team, talk about, how much MRR you're adding monthly. And then love to get kind of jump into that first question, but maybe can frame it. What's going on right now? What's up? What's going on?
So we're just sales. I mean, the org's pretty small. We're like less than 20 people. We've got like just a handful of salespeople, but we're growing really nicely. Sort of like we're actually growing sort of like 30 to 50% month over month right now, which is pretty nuts. And so it's been a pretty wild journey. And if you have a small sales team, you need to be focused on the bigger leads, the more exciting leads, but more importantly, you got to get in front of the right people with the right opportunities. And that's what SalesBot helps us do internally, and that's what we're helping other teams do.
All right, so talk to me about all the AI tools you're using, right? Obviously, you're obviously using SalesBot. We can get into that, but are there any other AI tools that you're using or workflows that are helping your sales team? And obviously, sales teams using it, and it could be everything. It could be just SalesBot. Well, however you want to talk. I know I use it as well.
Yeah. So we're using a bunch of different things because we're also always comparing sort of the way other companies are approaching things versus us. So even if we're not sort of using it sort of like super intensely, we are playing with all of our competitors and all of those sorts of things. Basically, there's sort of a couple of stacks depending on sort of what people want to do. So maybe it's just sort of helpful talking about that sort of holistically. So first of all, you need sort of your database of the sort of people that you're going to go and find and target and sort of hopefully generating good contact information. So typically that's a Zoom info or a sales bot or something like that. So once you've gone and found your leads, then the next step is going and you might want to do some additional enrichment using something like a Clay, which could go and we have one customer where we found a lot of information for them about restaurants, but they want to know the number of restaurants in each chain that they're going and targeting, and so they're using Clay to do a little bit of additional enrichment there. Then most of the market motion is going into one of 3 directions. You're using email, you're using LinkedIn, you're using phone, or you're using sort of like something that'll help you control all of them. So if you're going widespread LinkedIn, there's a lot of sort of AI tools that'll automate connection requests and those sorts of things. If you're doing email, bulk email, we like sort of smart leads and instantly. Those seem to be pretty darn great for doing very high volume. If you're doing phone, you want to be
Well, I got a
looking
question.
probably at.
Are you currently using Smart Leader instantly?
Internally, we do use one of them, and yes, in addition to using
And when you say
Salesbot to
high
manage.
volume, are you talking about high volume of sends per email box, or a high volume of email boxes sending 25 a day? Just for those people that are listening.
Yeah, so if you're going to go and do any sort of realistic volume, you're going to want to buy multiple domains, have multiple accounts per domain, and then keep the volume between 25 and 50 a day. So that's what we're doing. So that whole pipeline is effectively you buy a bunch of cheap Google or Microsoft accounts. You associate those with a bunch of specific domains that you buy. You warm them up, and then you populate them with the information from a company like Salesbot with all of the right contact information, the right targeting, which we can talk about how obviously if you're targeting the right people and you have better contact information and your messaging is better, all of those are going to drive way higher response rates. And then ultimately, you can use something like Instantly that'll automate the not just the sending of the emails, but also the monitoring of your domains and making sure that all of your accounts are healthy and sort of continuing to be effective, and making sure that that stuff is actually ultimately getting delivered. So Instantly and Smart Leads both do a good job of that. But yeah, we use Instantly internally in addition to
So let me break
Salesbot.
that down, right? Because I think when you answer this question, what I like about your answer is that you kind of gave some mentions of some competitors, right? You didn't want to, you use some other people. So it's kind of a mix of like what we're doing and what other people are doing, but really overall, people are using a data provider, right?
Yep.
It could be a ZoomInfo, an Apple Market, it could be Salesbot, right? Obviously, you have a lot of leverage with your own platform, and then people are then using Clay or Data Bar or something like that to enrich the data. One of the things that I didn't hear that I'd like to ask about is, are you cleaning emails with like an email list verification or a never bounce? Is that something you do internally? Is that something you recommend? Is that something you don't do because you use Salesbot data and it doesn't need to be cleaned?
Yeah, so it's exactly that. If you're using any other provider, you are insane to go and send emails without putting it through some sort of email verifier first. Bounce rate is one of the first things that the email providers are going to use to determine whether or not your email should be let through or not. If you have a high bounce rate, you're going to be sort of thought of as spam. Salesbot is a little bit different, which makes that a lot easier. We will actually verify every email before we give it to you. And we'll actually only charge you if we can find a valid email. So if I find an email that I think is good, but I'm not able to validate it, we will say, hey, this is an unverified email, but here it is anyway, and you get it totally for free. You're only
Let me
paying
talk
for
a
the
little bit
emails that are
deeper about
verified.
that. So if I understand you correctly, you'll recommend someone to use the best provider you can for your TEM. That could be, obviously it could be multiple providers. You're recommending them cleaning it, but you're pointing out that inside of Salesbot, it is already got an API with something like email list verification, never bounce, or the other 40 companies just to do that within your platform. And that's the way you keep email quality high. Is that accurate?
That's accurate for the most part. So not only are we doing that, because we're working with multiple providers that can go and find emails differently, we tend to have much higher verified coverage. So if you look at sort of like, say you take another company, take an Apollo for an example, you go and export a lot of Apollo leads, you then go and put them through a verifier and you lose 30
are
to
going to bounce.
50% of them.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Tim Zhang 7 years ago, and I said, Tim, when I export your data, I put it in never bounce, and I get only about 70% valid, 30% invalid. And his comment to me was, all of those companies are BS, they're scams. When I sent his email cold, I definitely got a 30% bounce rate. And when I cleaned it, it definitely worked. But congrats to Tim, because he was able to build $1 billion company without believing in email cleaning, right? So it goes to show you that you don't always have to be right or highly accurate to be successful, right? And obviously,
I think that was true. I think that will be. I think the bar for what people are expecting out of their data platforms and their targeting platforms and their content generation platforms is dramatically going up with all these capabilities of AI. So yeah, 5 years ago, I think everyone's like, that's fine. Give me the leads. I'll just find a way to clean up the list myself and then go and send it. And I'm happy to deal with 8 steps. more and more people are looking for ways to have fewer tools, fewer steps, and automate more pieces of the process. So I agree with you, but I think that's shifting now.
We'll see. We're going to find out, right? And then just to kind of elaborate too, you're also recommending people use multiple emails, low cost, Microsoft and Gmail, warm them up, keep them warm, and send 25 per day, right? So just also answer, like, so for me, Jeremy, like, those are some of the best practices that I do internally at CloudTask, right? And I'm fortunate enough to be webinars and web roundtables and communicating with the smartest, brightest people about email. So I guess I'm kind of just cheating. I'd love to innovate. I'm like, do I got an earthquake here? Why are my lights moving? We get a little bit of that sometimes here. So basically, that's basically how you're using AI today. You're scaling that. Are you currently doing any automation on LinkedIn? Are you currently using AI to analyze your meetings? Like how far are you using AI in the sales cycle? Because we talked right now about top of the funnel, right? But
sure.
Are you finding value in it also with bottom of the funnel as well?
Yeah. So internally, yeah. So we're definitely doing, again, there's sort of three ways to do it. There's the email, there's the LinkedIn automation. We do both of those. We are also starting to use to start doing a bunch of phone as well. Phone is actually still email and LinkedIn have gotten a lot harder proportionally relative to phone. So we're also seeing a lot of value in working with companies like Orem, Nooks, and Connect and Sell to go and do the phone side and have that be really effective. Later on in the funnel, yeah, we're definitely doing stuff like I have AI recorders for all of my sales reps that are going and analyzing all the meetings, and then we're tossing that into ChatGPT or whatever to automatically generate smarter follow-ups that automatically populate with the right links and all of the other sort of relevant information. And so I think it's even powerful, like even at the end of every sales call, if I ever have a sales call that goes sideways, I'll literally ask like ChatGPT, analyze my sales call. What are three things I could have did well, and what are three things I could do better? So I do that personally. We have the team do it. Getting that sort of like real-time feedback can be really valuable, but also can be valuable in coaching sessions and that sort of thing as well.
I like my boy Denis Champagne saying phone. Phone is where it's at. Transparently, at CloudTask, we get like 50,000 website visitors a month, 100 inbound meetings a month, but I think it's costing me money because I get so used to inbound that instead of calling the clients that could hire 1,000 or 100 SDRs or AEs from our marketplace, I ended up just dealing the inbound. So, Denis, you're right, man. We got to get back on the phones. Sometimes we get comfortable making content, being on roundtables, getting meetings coming to us, right? But sometimes it's like finding a diamond in the rough, right? You can get distracted by it. You want to dig a little bit deeper and you can get a bigger one. I wanted to add something, Jeremy, if you don't mind, to the top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, how we're using it. Big thanks to Chorus AI. They were, we sell Chorus. They gave us access to their instance. I've been using it. I've been actually taking the transcript and copying and pasting it and sticking it in ChatGPT and saying, hey, analyze this meeting. Give me a score from 0 to 100. Let me know what I could do better, and then send an email to the team to help coach it, which has been awesome. And now I'm also going to give a plug to a company that I don't have a relationship with. This guy, Elad Posner, I think. He's the CEO of Win.ai. He's literally mailed me things into Colombia. He's mailed me like these goggles to break something. And like, he would never meet with me, which is just funny. Shout out to Elad because you mailed me things to Colombia. But it took me like a long time to understand what his product did because they got really good marketing, but it's top of the funnel type stuff. And then I realized that they're like a real-time call analyst system that gives you real-time information. It fills out the CRM in real time. And now that I use Chorus and I have to wait for it and I got to wait for the transcript, I can see how real time could be beneficial, right? If that makes sense, because now I'm getting this awesome information post call, and I'm like, man, that would be awesome. So let's go to the second question because I can go on forever, right? Talk to me about a real example of a workflow that cuts down manual prospecting.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is where, we're just so biased on the way Salesbot does it that I can't imagine doing it differently. I'll just sort of talk through sort of like an interesting sort of larger customer we supported recently. So they didn't really have a great definition of their ICP. They had a bunch of PowerPoints that sort of described who they wanted and what they wanted. So what we did is we took it into ChatGPT. We took in a bunch of information there, and we cross-referenced it with some of the data from Salesbot, and had the AI literally generate segmentation of, here are your 3 ideal customer profiles. This is a description of who they are. I sent them back to the customer. They were like, yep, these are exactly the sorts of people we should sell to. We then took that AI and dropped it into Salesbot. And what's cool about Salesbot is you can just describe in natural language who you're trying to sell to, and it'll automatically generate the search and find 5 times more leads. And so we just dropped it in. Literally, it took 30 seconds for each of those 3 cases, found the people, got them phone numbers, and within 15 minutes, they were like, this is great. I have my list of thousands of people, and I can start calling right away. Going and synthesizing all of that information before would have taken, I don't know, hours to days, right? Breaking down your ICP takes many, many hours. Going and translating that into a search and fine-tuning it, and then expanding it to other titles and industries and things like that to go and find the relevant people can take hours or days. And then sort of, to your point, pulling the contact information, making sure it's clean, all of that stuff often takes many steps. That's all sort of quick and easy. And what's nice is, not only are you finding more people in your ICP, but your targeting isn't degrading. The quality of the results are good. So sort of a concrete, simple example would be, no one types in VP of revenue when there are 5% of people type in VP of revenue when they're looking for a VP of sales. And so all of those people whose title is VP of revenue, those people aren't being sold to, and they're much more receptive to buying a product because they're not getting calls or emails at 100x, or they're getting calls and emails at 1/10 or 100th the volume of what like VP
Yeah,
of
so
sales
let's pause right there, because you're talking about your workflows that you're doing, right? You're talking about how you leverage prompt to execution, right? I want to find these people, but then you got into a really good point, right? Where it's always going to be the case that the people who get contacted the less will be the most responsive, right? That's where the data bars, the clays, the sales bots, right? We're like finding the, as like a synonym to VP of revenue is VP of sales, right? And like digging deeper to find the people so basically the people are lazy humans, right? The least amount of work is doing VP of sales. If you go a few steps further and you find all the different variations, you're going to contact people that have been contacting less often, and you'll get a higher response rate, right? That makes a lot of sense.
Higher. We've seen internally people's book like the first call from like an SDR book to meeting go up by 2x by targeting sort of these like harder to find people.
Yeah. And that's also, yeah, so Jeff says, just use AI for your VP. I do as well, right? Are you a big believer that companies should be hiring VPs of sales at an early stage, or should they leverage AI to fill in that gap?
I mean, I think there's a role for both. You definitely want, if you're going to be hired, it depends on obviously what stage of company you are. If you're early stage, whatever leader you get, I don't care what title you give them, they better be comfortable rolling up their sleeves, generating deals themselves, closing deals themselves, all that stuff. If they're like, my goal is to analyze Salesforce and work out what comp plan is going to motivate the salespeople, that is not going to be a good fit for sort of an early stage company. That said, you want, whether you hire the VP of sales or not, they need to be AI oriented and AI minded, because you can get 2, 3, 5x increases in the productivity of all your sales reps, and that should include your VP of sales, by going and doing it this way. And so I don't think it's an either or, but I do think that a lot of startups, I learned this like when I hired my first sales leader, is I was like, oh crap, I'm literally talking to like the VP of Adobe about whether or not they want to come on, or the VP of sales at Adobe or other sort of very large companies to come on at this our startup that was growing really quickly. And the more I dug into what they did into every day, I was like, this person's skills have no applicability. Like,
I'm glad you brought that up. No, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a pitfall that people make, right? So I agree with you that if you're going to hire a sales leader, find someone with a strong AI background. I would also agree with you that a common pitfall that I see is a startup saying, oh, and I have an example. I got a friend, he had a company down here that raised a Series A, and it was kind of like a Uber competitor, and he was roasting me. He's like, I hired my CRO as a VP of sales at Oracle for 15 years. And I was like, bro, you're going to fire that guy. I was like, those companies have inbound demand. They got millions of dollars. They literally sponsor like the World Cup. You know what I mean? And it's not the same thing, right? And you're going to basically realize that, even a CEO of a startup, you're going to be a different person as a CEO. You're going to respond to one email with one word when you do 500 million ARR, right, or above, and versus me who comments too much and talks too much. I got to be quiet, right? Let's see this comment. In short, I love the idea of. I didn't see that comment. Someone's I love the idea of AI to drive segmentation, top of the middle funnel, connections, validation, sales team, and add human touch closing during the bottom of the funnel to use AI to support messaging. Yeah, I agree. I'm like, look, I think the cool part is that there are tools now that I've been on a meeting with a company called Hyperbound, and then there was another alternative that we're using. I forgot the name. But it actually allows you to practice these cold calls. And I went against the engine where I was trying to sell during the demo, which I might put in the content here. I was selling against Zoom Info as a VP of sales. It's just random, but it actually has a lot of context because I put my Salesbot hat on when I made the call and I made the meeting. But we have tools now that allow you to practice the calls, practice the demos, coach you, and give you real-time feedback. So to the person's comment, I know you love the full funnel that that AI can work, and it's here today. And I agree. And I think what we'll see in my prediction, which nobody asked me, I think we're going to see a lot of innovative companies with smaller headcount. So instead of seeing companies with 2,000 employees, 10 of them, we might see 10,000 employees, 10,000 companies with 3 employees, right? What part of AI in sales are useful, and what's just hype?
Yeah, so I think there's a very big distinction between what I call AI fairy dust versus AI workflows tools. So if you look at a lot of like what we call the sort of outbound 1.0 companies, they're really just trying to tweak their existing workflows with AI. They're like, hey, I've got this list of 10 companies, go and find me 10 more, or go and give me another industry or something like that. If I'm doing like the big innovations are coming from companies that are reimagining all of the workflows, assuming that AI is at their core, right? So, I mean, I'll go back to Salesbot as an example. You don't start with a search and then go and sort of make some tweaks using AI. You literally describe who you're looking for with AI and then iterate with AI, and then you go and do the final tweaking. And so I think that's a really important distinction. Someone else sort of made an implicit point that I also want to call out here. There's like a really interesting siren song of getting rid of all of your reps, and that having AI go and replace everything that you're going to go and do, and just sort of automate all of it. Like any sort of mid-market or enterprise sales that requires many touches requires building of relationships, and that takes time, and that takes trust, and that takes sophistication beyond sort of what AI can even remotely do today. And so having clarity inside of your organization of where the AI is going to add value and where the human is really going to be adding the value, and understanding sort of that interoperability between the two is really, really important.
Yeah. Some of the things that I think that I see out there that are like real and like not really effective. So like, obviously, I'm a big fan of Adam Robinson, RB2B. We're a big partner of them and a lot of the people in that space. But I have talked to some customers from like a company like Warmly.ai where you start realizing that like they're not really able to put an ROI to the product. And they just kind of talk about like, I like the fact that I think I know who visits my website, right? But at the end of the day, it's like if someone visits your website and they don't fill out a form, they don't want to book with you, like do they really want you to cold call them and email them? And that's, for me, I've yet to learn more about. I want to talk. If you guys are happy, successful Warmly.ai clients, I want to talk to you. I'm trying to find someone's. But that's the space where I think is a little bit weird because there's like not that many, like I haven't really met someone who was able to convey that like they identify their website visitors and they convert them higher. Have you heard about anyone in that space that has been very clear on an ROI? And how do you feel about that kind of data of website visitors and AI, or however it mixes?
Sorry, are you asking me or are you asking the?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
So a lot of it boils down to catching users at the right stage of their the cycle and sort of how you engage with them. And so I think there's a misconception that, oh, someone came to my website, so I want to sell them. They're in research mode most of the time. They're not actually in buying mode. They don't actually want to talk to a salesperson yet. They're still educating themselves on the market. So if you can be smarter about targeting ads, or you can be smarter about like soft touch email campaigns that are not trying to sell them anything and are just trying to expose them to your brand, that can probably help later stage. But if you're like, hey, I saw someone log into my website and now I'm going to pick up the phone and call them and expect that they're going to be more willing to take a meeting than a cold lead, generally, at least from what I've seen from the stats, the answer is that's not actually any better. And so a lot of it boils down
So
to.
is it safe to say to our last question that might be the space that's a little bit questionable?
I don't think so. I think people are jumping to the wrong conclusion about what to do with that data. I think they're jumping to the conclusion of someone's on my website so I can sell to them right away. And really, it should be like thinking of it as like more like an MQL. So it's like someone worth nurturing and turning into a sales lead, and maybe spending more energy nurturing that lead. But yeah, they're not going to convert right away.
No, I can agree with you there. So like how people are using that data, like, hey, give it to the SDRs versus like, hey, no, if you're filtering your ICP and they're in your ICP, you'd probably want to do awareness marketing to them anyways.
That's right.
A double signal of them being in your ICP and maybe they hit your website is good for awareness. And I can agree with you on that as well. I'm going to read this last question, and I'm going to ask you a last question too. The website prices you mentioned is part of the funnel. In that case, personalized content to anonymous visitors by building out the personas. So, yeah, that makes sense. So it's basically the same thing, right? Treat them as an MQL or awareness, which is interesting. Cool. I think we got another question, man. What are the most common use cases of AI in sales you're seeing across teams right now? I'm going to answer that. I would say prompt to lists, prompt to sequences, right? AI coaching, right, for SDRs. Call analysis is what I'm seeing the most. And then I could add probably content creation if you put content creation as far as demand gen, right? I like pump out an article. I get questions in group chats that turn into articles, right? Like someone asked me, any good conferences in San Francisco? And today I had an agent go research all of the events around inbound, which I'm going to be in San Francisco if you want to connect. Jeremy, you better be picking me up. So basically, I made an article about all the events around inbound. So it's like I'm turning that into also content as well. But Jeremy, how would you answer that?
So at the top, most of them I would agree. I think the main thing for top of the funnel, which is where I'm more of an expert, is segmentation, finding the right leads, both expanding your TAM and making sure that those people are relevant. And those, you need to sort of balance both of those. Deep research to better understand when you get on the phone or a call exactly where to focus, and you can save huge amounts of time there. Then content generation, whether that's your email scripts or your the call scripts for your SDRs, personalization of that, so making sure that the scripts or email content is sort of refined that way. And then I think where we're going to get to long term is AI actually generating the entire multi-channel sequence. So you might imagine that a really senior person, let's say I know the person is older, I might be more likely to send them a phone call. And if I know they're Gen Z, I might be more reliant on text, right? So you can actually start imagining that the go-to-market motion and the different channels you use for each lead will actually start changing based on additional information as well, which I get really excited about.
Makes sense. Talk to me before we go. It's been awesome. About one feature of Salesbot that you're really excited about that is either working or you're building.
Yeah. So just so people have a little context, Salesbot is sort of like a next generation database and targeting platform for outbound sales. So we have a database of 690 million people, which is 3 times the size of Apollo and 2 times the size of ZoomInfo. And then have much higher quality contact data because we're doing sort of high quality enrichment waterfalls where we're selecting the right vendors to go with to get you way better coverage and quality of email and phone. But yeah, I mean, I would argue that like the value is that I'm really seeing in AI is the sort of integration of all of those features. So the better you are at segmenting your ICP into specific sort of different demographics that are going to care about things differently, then using Salesbot's AI where you just describe who you're trying to sell to and you give access to the company website, and Salesbot can automatically generate 5 times the more leads, which means 80% of those people you're not talking to and your competition aren't talking to. So they're way more likely to ultimately engage with you. And then being able to get emails and phone numbers with way higher coverage and way better accuracy of conversion. We're seeing 50% higher accuracy rates, 50% higher connect rates because of how we're able to go and target and get the right sort of mobile phone for all of those sorts of people. And then sort of generating the content for automated personalized emails as well, if you want to go and do that at scale as well. So for me, it's not one feature. It's the fact that you can sort of solve all of those problems in one sort of simple tool and then export it into whatever system you want and make a ton of phone calls or blast a ton of emails and drive a ton of leads with it's nice. You just like swap out a Zoom info and you just start seeing much higher response rates. All of your SDRs and AEs are more efficient. What else would you want?
I want a special offer for buyers that come through the CloudTask marketplace so that they can experience Salesbot. You got a good positive note to leave us on? What's the special offer for the month?
Yeah, so if people come through the CloudTask marketplace, we're happy to provide sort of extra white glove onboarding for the trial. And if you guys do a sort of a paid pilot, we'll do a 20% discount on the paid pilot of anyone who comes through the CloudTask ecosystem.
20% discount and your personal service. I like it. Jeremy, appreciate you taking the time to be on this webinar today. I hope the audience learned. And yeah, if you want to connect with Jeremy Schiff, he's clearly on LinkedIn. And if you guys are big into AI and RevOps, I created a community of just geniuses like Jeremy. We're chatting AI all day. Just DM me and I'll give you access if I give you the gold thing. I'm pretty sure I'm like, this is shaking, man. This is 10 to the wall. I got to go check out what's going on here. But I'll let you go, Jeremy. Thank you, and I appreciate everything, man. Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really fun.
All right, see ya.